This is the lovely Melvin, and if you are a regular viewer of my channel, then you'll know all about this car, but considering it's now been over 2 years since I did a proper overview of this car and what it means to me and my ownership of it, I thought I'd give you all a little bit of an update, because most of you won't have been around at that point, and we've hit a bit of a crossroads in terms of my ownership. So before anything else, that crossroads is that Melvin's MOT has now expired. It expired exactly a week ago to the day you'll be seeing this video, so on the 6th of October. And I'm not putting him in for another one. As I've teased a few times on social media, well not teased, just mentioned, Melvin is being totally restored. So he's going to be a slow burner, a full video series on restoring this brilliant little car from the ground up and hopefully making him the best Mark III Metro in the world. Not totally original, we're going to be doing some aftermarket bits and pieces to make the car more accustomed to me, but this car is going to be totally restored and it's going to be a big project. I'm going to have to learn loads of new things because I've never done anything like this before, but I'm willing to do it because I love this little car. So I bought Melvin in 2017, just after I turned 17. So I've had him for 5 years now, and unfortunately, for those first 2 years of ownership, I didn't actually drive Melvin. Because I passed my driving test in July 2017, and at the time, I couldn't insure this car for some reason or another. Other cars would have been okay with, but insurance companies wanted £3,500 to insure this car, which says a lot about insurance in the UK. But Melvin sat in the garage, was taken to shows, taken out every weekend with my dad driving, and I polished him and cherished him and loved him. But then 2019 came around and I could actually start driving him for good. And at that point he had 56,000 miles or so. He's now on 83,000, 3 years later, and that's including the pandemic as well. So we've done quite a few miles together. And in 2019, that summer when I first drove him, I took him up to Scotland and did the North Coast 500 with him with a few mates. There were 4 of us. There was a Hyundai i30N, a pair of Skoda Fabias, a Fabia VRS Mark 1, and a modern Fabia, and Melvin. And guess which car broke down? The Fabia VRS, the reliable Volkswagen Group car, is the one that broke down. Melvin was absolutely perfect, and this set the course, because over the time I've had him, he hasn't really put up a fuss at all. After that, every day I commuted up to university in Melvin, and he was perfectly good, 80 miles a day. Whenever I did actually have to be in uni, that was 80 miles a day, and he'd just bob up the M6 perfectly well. If you've never been in, never driven a K-Series Rover Metro, not an Austin Metro, contrary to what Partridge would have you believe, they are very, very different cars underneath the skin. I know I have both of them, but these are so refined, brilliant little cars to use, and they still feel relatively modern, but with all the character that an old car brings. Anyway, I'm rambling. So we went up to Scotland, we went to John O'Groats, we did 1,400 miles in 5 days up in Scotland, and he was perfect. Then I commuted up to university every day in Melvin. He's been my car for going all over the country doing videos for Twin Cam. My first Twin Cam video was on Melvin. A very hastily shot little video where I just walked around the car and went for a little drive. That was all just filmed within an hour or so, and I just thought that morning I'd go out and record a video, and it's now turned into this, which is mad, but this car is responsible for all of it. Since then we've been down to Devon, for example, all over the country doing all kinds of different things, all kinds of different car shows as well. We've been down to Portsmouth, we've been down to Devon, we've been up to John O'Groats, we've been to all 4 corners of the country in this car, and he's been nearly perfect. So the things that have gone wrong, I've had 2 thermostats, because 2 different thermostats stuck closed, which is poor quality parts. He's had a radiator because the original radiator was a bit rotten. But I found a good used radiator and put that in, and now it's perfect. He's had a wheel bearing on this corner, I think. He had the carburettor rebuilt because he started overfueling horrendously in 2019, so he had a rebuilt carburettor. And what else has he had? Apart from just servicing components, you know, things that need to be renewed, like distributor cap, rotor arm. He's had a new coil as well. But you know, these are all little tiny things, because generally over the 25,000 miles, 26,000 miles I've done in this car, he's just worked. Being completely dependable and reliable. Just give him a service, put some fuel in him, and he'll go. I cannot fault this car. Back in 2017, I made the decision to go out and buy an old car, and it's the best decision I ever made. Completely. There's nothing I can fault this little car for. I love him to bits. So that's a little very quick roundup of my ownership of Melvin. Reliable, dependable, has taken me all over the country, and we've done all kinds of fun things. And this is the thing about classic car ownership that a lot of people who don't own classic cars don't get. Some of my best friends in the world I've met through Melvin, and if I didn't buy Melvin in 2017, I probably wouldn't have met them. So this car means a lot to me, both in terms of motoring, in terms of what I do, doing twin cam, and in, you know, personally as well, in terms of my friends and my social groups. So this car means a lot to me. I love it to bits, and now unfortunately he does have to come off the road. And I'd rather not be taking him off the road, because I'd rather just go out and drive and not have to spend money, frankly, but a restoration is going to have to happen. Because when I bought Melvin back in 2017, it was a very good Metro. Not perfect, it had a few cheap repairs, a couple of little cheap paint jobs in the past as well, but generally in very good condition. But over the past 5 years, I've driven him, or 3 years really, I've driven him through British winters, and those slightly bodged rust repairs have started to catch up with him. So we'll do, in our first proper Melvin restoration video, we'll go through the car, strip him down, and look for rust. That's the first thing we'll do, is see just how much rust there actually is on a car. I think I know most of it, but there's always stuff hiding on old cars, so we'll have a good look. But what I've found is that the inner rear wheel arch on the driver's side is completely rotten. The outer wheel arch is completely rotten. I put a picture up on the screen. There's a big old hole in the wheel arch where the paint cracked, and then the bodywork just kind of came off in my hand. But what I actually found in my hand was mostly filler, not steel. So again, that's an evidence of really bad repairs over this car's life. But he's been so dependable, so why would I not put the money into him now? It means this car means so much to me that I'm willing to put the money in. And also, this video's for you lot, so we're not just going to be doing rust repairs, although most of that I'll probably farm out to someone else, because you know, it's a very, very skilled job. But in terms of the mechanical stuff, I'm going to be cleaning, you know, painting, replacing anything that needs doing on this car. So it's going to be a really, really thorough rebuild. But that's the biggest thing, is the rust. Apart from that, the car only has a few minor issues. This headlamp's out. Again, that's the level we're talking here. Really small things that are wrong with it. And needs new CV boots, both sides at the front. Needs a new CV itself on this side, because that's clicking away at full lock. But yeah, apart from that, it's really not bad. Mechanically, this car is really good. It's just the bodywork that's put us in this position now, where I'm not putting him through another MOT, because he'll just fail, and there's no point in having that across the car's history. So that's where we're at. Here's a little introduction to Melvin, why I love him so much. And this car, you know, first of all, it has that impact on me, you know, my friends, and the experience of having this car. But I've had him 3 years, well, I've had him 5 years, been driving him for 3 years. I've got Melody since, who is just behind the camera with no engine in her, so I need to hurry up and get that sorted before we get Melvin in the garage. But I've been driving loads of cool cars for Twin Cam, and only twice have I ever ended a filming day, got back in Melvin, and felt slightly underwhelmed. And they were when I drove the Fiat X19, which was just brilliant. Everything about that car is so stylish, sounds so good, and it's not the most precise of cars, but it felt so nice, it felt so characterful. And also the Mini, Mark 1 Mini. They're the only two times that I've ever got back in Melvin and been underwhelmed. I did a video on an Alpha Sud, and I got back in Melvin, and I preferred Melvin. I did a video on an R53 Mini Cooper S, and got back in Melvin, and preferred Melvin. These K-Series Metros were considered the best small cars out there in 1990. Not very long, because it gradually got overtaken. But in 1990, this was proclaimed by Autocar as the best small car in the world, and I've driven enough cars now to really be able to understand how good this is. The Austin Metro isn't a patch on it. I love Metros, you know, they're my thing, but I'm not going out of my way to say they're better than they are. The A-Series Metro has a lot of flaws, a lot of flaws. And the K-Series Metro has a few flaws as well, but they're minor, they're very minor, because this car is exceptional to drive. The K-Series engine is so responsive, it's so rev happy, and it's really powerful as well. It's a thing that people seem to forget now because we're 32 years on from its launch. This is the 1100 Metro and it has 60 brake horsepower. The 1100 Fiesta had less than 50 horsepower. A Citroen AX had like 45 horsepower or something. You know, the K-Series Metro was a very fast car compared to its competitors. Very fast car. And it handled brilliantly. And it's so responsive, so characterful, and it's a joy to drive. Never have I got in this car and it not put a massive smile on my face. On the worst of days, in the worst weather, this car makes me smile. And the little modifications I've done to it, so putting the smaller steering wheel on it, putting the Maniflow exhaust on it, and putting the GTA steels with the sticky tyres on them, have all just added to that. They've made it a little bit closer to how I want Melvin as a car. They've made the steering a little bit heavier. They've given him a bit more grip, and they've given, you know, the exhaust has given that noise as well. And these are all things that as we restore the car I want to build on. So we're going to be putting a new engine in him. What engine that is in particular will come later, but we're going to be doing something about the engine to give him more performance. We're going to be modifying the suspension. We're going to be fixing the suspension first of all because it's hydrogas and the gas drains out the system eventually. But yeah, all these things, we're going to be modifying this car to make him better, to make him more fitting to how I want him. But Melvin's character is still going to be here. So Melvin is a Metro 1.1C. And the 1.1C is the base model. So he has no bright rubbing strips in the bumpers, poverty spec paint finish in white. He has no interior fittings whatsoever. From factory, he didn't even have a radio. And he has the little hubcaps and the three-piece metal rear bumper, which is insane because it costs Rover more to do, and it's objectively really ugly. But I love the base modelness of this car. And externally, he's going to stay looking exactly as he is. So don't worry that I'm going to be making Melvin into something he's not. Melvin will still look like he is. This is Melvin, he is poverty spec, but under the skin we're going to be giving him a little bit of performance, because he deserves it, and I think I'll really enjoy it. So I'm never going to sell this car. That's a little quick overview. No idea how long I've been ranting on for, but this is Melvin. He's brilliant, I love him to bits, he's a central part of what Twin Cam is, and now we're going to be embarking on a restoration. This is going to be a big part of Twin Cam over the next goodness knows how long, probably years, frankly, but I want to get this right, and so you're all going to come along for the ride if you're so good as to, you know, keep up with Twin Cam and to watch these videos. So stay tuned, because Melvin is going to be completely stripped down, rebuilt, and he's going to be the best Mark III Metro in the world. So with that, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, then please do click like and subscribe to Twin Cam as well. I'm forever indebted to my wonderful Patreon supporters, so if you'd like to support me that way, then please do follow the link in the description. And I'll have more videos coming along soon.